Hello, my name is Bradley Bolander. Welcome to Crash Course U.S. History. Today we're going to be talking about gold diggers. Not that one. That one.
I'm Joshi. Today I'll be talking about gold diggers. The gold rush began on January 24th, 1848. James W. Marshall found a gold nugget while building John Sutter's mill. When the word got out there, everyone wanted to go to California. There were two ways to get there. From the U.S., you could take the seawater route and it would be treacherous and infested with diseases, or the Oregon Trail, which took about the same time, around 6 months. The Oregon Trail was somewhat easier. People from the U.S. weren't the only ones to immigrate to California. People from Chile, Mexico, Turkey, China, Germany, Ireland, and France immigrated. Out of all those countries, the people from China were the most abundant in California. Eventually, when the gold started running out, California made a tax on the foreigners. They told them that they had to pay $20 tax per month. After large amounts of gold were found, the value of gold dropped and the economy inflated. When that happened, everyday items became expensive. When everyday items became expensive, it led to a lot of miners struggling to make a living.
Hi, I'm Carson, and today we're going to be talking about Sutter's Mill. In January of 1848, John Sutter sent carpenter James Marshall to build a sawmill next to a nearby river. As Marshall worked, he glanced down at the river and found small flakes of gold. As he searched, he found more and more gold. When he picked up some, he said, I reached down my hand and picked it up. It made my heart thump. I was sure it was gold. Both Sutter and James Marshall agreed to keep it a secret, but soon after a Spanish-speaking native found it, he said, oro, 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 which means gold in Spanish. The native began to tell others, and word then spread fast. Many workers quit their jobs to go look for gold. This discovery was made in present-day Sacramento, California, which was founded by James Sutter as Nueva Galicia, New Switzerland. The name was then changed.
And now, for more about John Sutter.
John Sutter is a rich businessman who founded Nueva Galicia, New Switzerland, which is present-day Sacramento. He's a rich businessman who has many different businesses around the country. And now for mining camps. Mining camps were created where enough people gathered in a certain place to search for gold. Mining camps were filled with many people from other cultures. Most miners were young, unmarried men. Only 5% of miners were women and children. Women that worked in mining camps generally made good money by cooking meals and washing clothes. Miners paid large amounts of money for basic items because of the gold in circulation. A loaf of bread may cost 5 to 10 cents in the eastern part of the country. In San Francisco, it may sell for 50 to 75 cents.
They like Savage, why you got a 12-car garage and you only got 15 cars?
My name is Bradley Bolander, and today I will be talking about the inflation in San Francisco and the overall impact the gold rush had on California. Now, before I get into inflation, let me define inflation for you. Inflation is an increase in prices and a fall in the value of money. Basically, this means that things were more expensive because gold was booming. Miners essentially paid higher prices for their basic necessities. Because the gold in circulation caused that severe inflation. A 5-cent, or around $1.50 today, loaf of bread went from 50 to 75 cents, around $15 to $22 today. Imagine paying $22 for a piece of a loaf of bread. Also, eggs could sometimes go for $1 a piece. That's $30 today. Some people actually took advantage of this, however. Biddy Mason and her family were slaves, and they came to California and got their freedom. She saved enough money to buy a property. Over time, it increased the value from $250 to $200,000. There are some relevance and connections of this today. For example, the houses in California would cost around $1 million or more to houses maybe $400,000 here. This is because maybe some of the company startups that are happening in Silicon Valley.
We all just wanna be big rock stars and live in hilltop houses driving 15 cars.
Hi, I'm Gabe, and now we're going to talk about the 49ers. The 49ers were the immigrants who traveled to California, and no, they are not the football team. The name the 49ers comes from the year 1849, which was the year where the California Gold Rush kind of took off essentially. And that's how they got their name. As it said, the name 49ers here is what caused the San Francisco 49ers to eventually exist once the NFL existed. But this is long before the NFL, so we're not talking about the San Francisco 49ers, we're talking about the California Gold Rush 49ers, I guess. So when a miner would come, they would first stake a claim, meaning they would claim a site for mining. And they would, fairly often, they would dispute over these sites, and every once in a while, they would become a bit violent. Now, eventually, some rules were made for claiming land, for claiming mining sites and stuff. And one of these comes from a newspaper from the city of Placerville in 1853, which has a thing called the Miners' Ten Commandments, and the first one says, "Thou shalt have no other claim than one." So, as you can see, they kind of made some rules for it, and yeah. And as for the second commandment, it says, part of it is, "Thou shalt not make unto thyself any false claim, nor any likeness to a mean man, by jumping one." So, first you have people not being able to have more than one claim, and not, like, faking a claim, I guess. Well, I don't really understand this stuff, but, essentially, that's what it means, I think.
I am Professor Goss, and today I'll be telling you about the California Gold Rush. So, one of the benefits of these California gold rushes, there are small towns like Sacramento and San Francisco that turn into large industrialized cities. And the thing is, when you have cities, you have large industries and education systems, which is good to keep our Americans smart. And we also have not just in the industry, we have agricultural gains in California because they start to grow pretty exponentially. And there are no more food shortages in California, which is very important when settlers start arriving. So another thing that's pretty significant about California is that it achieved statehood pretty early. After 2 years of being being gained by the United States in the Mexican War, it already becomes a state because there's so many people who have moved over in the gold rush. And it also inspires transcontinental railroads for Americans to actually be able to go from sea to sea, which is kind of the end goal. And also, when people started going to mine gold and putting gold into the system, it actually helped the economy, which brought money back into the treasury from the Mexican-American War, because they spent a lot of money doing that. But even though it had lots of benefits, it also had some drawbacks. Like when people have lots of money and some people don't, you can imagine that there's probably gonna be lots of stealing and robbery and murder, and that's kind of what happened in California. So another thing is a lot of people actually left their well-paying jobs and their good houses to find gold, which the problem is about only half of them actually found a good amount of gold to sustain themselves in California, which also contributes to the crime and the amount of poor people who also end up in California because they can't pay for a trip back. And many miners end up in very harsh conditions in the mines, and they end up diseased or dying in the mines because you have lots of dangers in them. And also, when they came to California, many natives and Mexicans were also persecuted, which also does not translate well to equality and liberty, which is an American ideal. Now, there was also a man by the name of Hugo Reed who was writing to his friend about the dangers of the gold mines and the gold rush. His letter went something like this. "Don't go into the mines on any account. They are loaded to the muzzle with vagabonds from every corner of the globe, scoundrels from nowhere, rascals from Oregon, pickpockets from New York, accomplished gentlemen from Europe, interlopers from Lima and Chile, Mexican thieves, gamblers from no particular spot, and assassins manufactured in hell for the express purpose of converting highways and byways into theaters of blood." But overall, the California Gold Rush did help America's society.